Welcome everyone to today's installment of our open call for Repair Cafe organizers. I'm Don Fick and I'll be your host during our time together today. We are using the webinar format of Zoom today, so we're going to start out with just myself and Amanda on screen as panelists. And as we go through our time together, I'll be adding additional people in as panelists if you'd like to ask questions and engage in the conversation. By the end, we'll probably have everybody in as a panelist. So it'll just take a moment as I add you in as a panelist. But in the meantime, you're welcome to post questions in the chat. And then later on, I'll ask you to raise your hand if you'd like to join as a panelist, and I'll include you then. We have 17 people in the audience, myself and Amanda on the screen, and we're going to get started. So we've got a little bit of an outline for our conversations today. We're going to begin with a tour of the South King Tool Library in Federal Way, Washington. And then we're going to follow with a review of some of the online tools available for US Repair Cafe organizers. These are some new websites that have launched over the past few months. We want to make sure that you're aware of them and give you ideas about how you can get involved with them. We've got a brief discussion on liability insurance. It was an interesting topic from our last call 2 months ago. In the meantime, I did go out and get a liability insurance quote. And I have that to share with everyone so you can get familiar with what might be involved if you went out shopping for liability insurance for a Repair Cafe. And then we'll have open discussion, just a kind of broad discussion. People can throw out questions or share ideas and throw out tips. There's no particular agenda to the open discussion, no preset questions. Everything is fair game. We've got a different audience mix than usual, I guess. We've got our Repair Cafe organizers, but we've also got folks from the tool library world. And I thought tool libraries were kind of a great overlap, a lot of similar values and goals, kind of a complementary mission in tool libraries and Repair Cafe. So we've got some folks joining us that may not be familiar with Repair Cafe, and so I definitely encourage you to take a look at some of those online resources that we'll be looking at later to see how you might learn more about Repair Cafe. So we'll start out with our tool library tour. This is going to be a live tour led by Amanda Miller. Amanda is the executive director of the South King Tool Library in Federal Way, a suburb of Seattle. It's probably Seattle's newest tool library. Is that right, Amanda? Is it? Do you think it's the newest?
I think so, unless one probably. Yeah, we're definitely one of the first not in Seattle. But outside in King County.
Okay. And so launching just in the middle of 2020 in June, just in the first 6 months, they estimate that they've had an impact in the community of reducing landfill waste by about 10,000 pounds and having an economic impact on their neighboring communities of about $45,000 in cost savings by, through their programs and through lending of tools. So in addition to being an advocate for tool sharing and the repair economy, Amanda is a mother of two, an East Coast transplant originally from Virginia, and a big fan of the musician David Bowie. So welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. You read it all. Great. you can see me, right? Not the other view. I can't see myself.
Yeah, we're going to switch around now and put you on the spotlight here.
Everyone could see my funny faces that I was making as I was getting things ready. So thank you for joining me today. I am coming to you from the parking lot of the Thornton F. McElroy Masonic Lodge. These are our landlords. They generously have been allowing us to build a building on their property and lend tools out of that building the past 6 months. We've also partnered with them to hold Repair Cafe, how it started. So yeah, I'll just give you guys a brief history. Does everything sound okay, Don?
Yes, sounds good right now.
There we go. All right. There's our neighbors going. Cool. All right, so lots of directional arrows. Federal Way is a hugely diverse community, a population of about 100,000, and we are the only tool library, of course, in the region. One of the most diverse cities. Okay, neighbors trying to talk to me too. One of the most diverse cities in King County and the 10th largest city, I think, in Washington state. So we felt it was really important to bring access like a tool library to the region here, and to try to walk and talk at the same time. I don't know, I might fall, don't make fun of me, but know that I am hilarious if it does cut out. So here is you can actually see there's some generous parking in our parking lot, but since COVID, we really had to adapt. So about 5 years ago, this project began, and it was a labor of love. Some passionate community members started a steering committee and began researching the idea of hosting a tool library in Federal Way. So I came onto the board in about 2016 when I moved to Federal Way and bought our home. And we have since then just been kind of going through all the things that you can imagine. I took over as executive director in 2019, and we finally finished construction of this wonderful building behind me in 2020, just in March. I usually love to say I finished construction, I went on vacation to visit family, and I came back and everything was shut down, so I could never go on vacation again, apparently. So that time just gave us a chance to reset and think about how we could adapt our model. We sent several requests to the governor to open, and I think they stopped reading at library and said no. So we developed a drive-through model. You can kind of see here behind me, there's a lot of what they call, it's a fire lane, but a lovely little driveway that goes right in front of our building. And we can safely do reservations, pickups and drop-offs, just with the coordination through our inventory system. And people have been really gracious for that, because the Home Depots and Lowe's were always open. So creating that barrierless access with the tool library was really important for us. This is our one-of-a-kind building here that I'm now gonna totally wash myself out with. Gotta say, I'm pretty proud. Most of what you see here is a donated, upcycled hard work. There's about 1,300 square feet with 2 recycled shipping containers that are 40 foot long each, a 15-foot deck in between. So a footprint, did I say that already, about 1,300. And there's a lovely picture somewhere of my son strapped to my chest as I finish drilling in all the runs of the deck boards here, which are made out of Trex, which is actually a product local here that is created out of recycled shopping bags. So we just really tried to foster this idea of reuse, repair, bootstrap, even in our building. And I think it comes across fairly well. These are very used and abused shipping containers. I'll try not to make you guys dizzy, but you can see we still have the original painting here, donated by Tote, which is like an Alaska carrier for us here. And then something I'm really proud of is this rear wall, because I have no real construction experience, but I did design this back wall to be light permeating, and in these summer months where we can go a few weeks without rain, it actually works out really well for storage too. But the the idea of looking at engineered architectural and structural plans was very overwhelming, and once I had to do it many times to explain to people, it became very accessible. So I'm pretty proud of that.
So Amanda, was it
yeah.
difficult to get the talent, I guess, the volunteer labor to build, and was the permitting process difficult?
So hindsight's 2020, right? That's the old saying, and we couldn't say that enough probably with this building. We had so many donations that were very generous. The architectural plans and engineered plans were donated, but the city is very different in their permitting and qualifying process. So yeah, that was a challenge. Luckily, we had some really responsive people from the city. And then the skilled labor that was involved with construction was more difficult. We actually were broken into while we were under construction, and there was some press coverage, and that was kind of the best thing that could have happened to us, because a lot of people learned about the tool library and learned about what we were doing. There's no such thing as bad press, I guess, but we were able to make some really great connections, and tried to really do some fundraising so we could pay people for their skills and their time, because there's a level of, just like in the repair world, there are valuable skills like welding for overhead structure. You have a lot of certifications you need. So I can go into all the detail about that. I won't bore you much more. So yeah, it was always fun to get the volunteers to do construction, because no one really knew what to do. So a lot of the time it was, well, let's do this and see what happens. I don't know if you've ever cut into a Coke can or anything metal, but it bends and sways and pops. So there was a lot of sledgehammers involved in construction, which was really satisfying. But here we are, and you can kind of see there's a lot of empty space in here still. We're still moving in with things kind of gradually, because every time you put a hole in this thing, it's not like a wall. You can't patch it, you can't fix it. It's a hole there forever. So you have to be really measured and calculated in that. So I wanted to show you guys some of the tools that we have. We kind of push the limits on what those are, like these vacuum sealers, and there's actually some canning equipment. Our commercial dehydrators are both checked out right now. So the category of tools is really broad for us. And the repair cafes ended up being one of the most inspirational parts of that. So we had several KitchenAid mixers that were brought to repair events, and basically folks had already bought a new one and they just wanted to have them fixed so they could move them along. And a lot of our tools, came to us in that capacity as well. But tools like pneumatic wrenches, and this is not actually ramen, there are some pipe wrenches in there. But you can imagine that the types of tools are really diverse, that people would be utilizing. People are willing to donate. Things like fans, you might not think of as a really important tool, but if you're painting inside, that time that they save you is amazing to just hook up a few extra fans. Yard equipment, no one really needs to keep a 6-foot level in their house unless you really want to have that as an ornament to, I don't know, decorate your mantle. The donations of really unique tools like a doweling jig, or some of the other pocket Craig jigs, hole saw kits and that kind of thing have been really popular as well.
Did you find that through donations you were able to get all of the tools that you needed, or did you have to purchase tools to round out your collection?
Well, so we had almost everything we have was donated. What we find is that there is a terminality to a lot of things. So electric is where we're stuck. We don't do anything gas powered, but things like pressure washers are extremely terminal, and so we're researching ways to purchase those. But maybe the most surprising thing people learn is that we were able to partner with places like the City of Federal Way to purchase the food preservation items. So they had funding to do food preservation series. We partnered with them for the educational resource we would have done in a class in person, but the COVID, of course, had that pivot in place. So we had over 100 attendees come to our first food preservation class last summer. And then we actually have been connected too with King County Noxious Weeds, and they're going to be purchasing some additional items. And there's a lot of different ways. I'll kind of talk about that a little more with the business models about where and how tool libraries can source their items, but hopefully that answers a little bit of your question. Yeah, I wanted to show you guys. Yeah.
I'll go. Yeah, go ahead. So let's see what we have behind us here. Behind you.
So what don't we have behind us? There are a lot of consumables. We find when people are donating, a lot of the time they're in transition. Federal Way is a hugely transitional area. We're right on the cusp of Tacoma and Seattle, people retiring. So as they're moving to whatever new part of life that they're moving to, they will donate everything they have in their garage. Someone passes away, spouse or passes away, parents and things like that. Tons of consumables will come in with those items. Now we can't accept everything. We try to say no, but things like tape and caulk and safety glasses and tape guns, hinges, nails. We try to just let people shop that when they are coming to complete a project, because a lot of the times those little things you just end up forgetting when you're going to the hardware store. So why not pick a few things up here and kind of round out your project.
And are the consumables offered for a fee, or is that free to take?
Those are free, and basically we just ask that if you don't use them, bring them back. Yeah, and I see someone commented Habitat for Humanity's restores exactly like that. A lot of the things that people just want to have one stop and say, here you go. Will you take, that's how we end up with a lot of other things too. Sometimes, will you take a mattress? No. But certain things we can repurpose or we can utilize for the business aspects of the tool library, like scanners or printers. We've had a few of those donated too.
So you have quite a few tools in inventory now. How many tools do you think you have?
Right now we have a little over 900 tools in inventory. I don't know if you can see behind me. So there's a bit of a process to the inventory system. So things like are quantitative, and like shovels and rakes and things, we don't necessarily put into inventory every single time. We also have things like screwdrivers, wrenches, pliers. You can kind of see behind me, it looks like a big mess, but someone did a lovely job of separating all these different size wrenches. And what we found is people don't borrow things like screwdrivers as much. So we have actually started putting them into kits for people that are in transition, coming out of maybe addiction treatment or incarceration, so that they can have some tools available to them when they move into whatever their next facility or life would have for them. Yeah.
And how do you manage the inventory?
Yeah.
You have quite a few items there. Do you need to use Excel spreadsheets or something fancier than that?
Oh, that would be a nightmare for Excel. So my background was actually in warehouse management and distribution. And when I joined the tool library, I was really excited because they were talking about how they were going to do this. And then I realized how daunting that task truly was. So generally, we have things like inventory labels. You can see here, it says property of South King Tool Library. And then there's a unique code and a barcode on there. We also write it on the item because you could probably just peel that guy off. You can also see that somebody marked that this was tested on a certain day. So we have a system that was developed by a gentleman or a team, I guess that was local in the West Seattle Tool Library, called My Turn. Since then, I've also learned that there's several other open source systems, and My Turn is wonderful. They have a lot of integrations that they've worked into, like reservations and things you can add. So if we have items purchased for us by grants, then we can track those and materialize reports and give more feedback. It's a really user-friendly system. So I'd be happy to share links and everything. I was thinking about that this morning, that I should probably just get a whole spreadsheet that has all the links that I would be talking about, because I can say things like share starter and My Turn, and you guys could be like, what are you talking about? So maybe that's something that I'll do, follow up with you.
We can certainly circulate that afterwards. We have everyone's email addresses, so we can do that.
Awesome. So I just wanted to, take the time to say, there's tools like these, these, this is a $500 compound DeWalt miter saw, and people ask all the time, you just let people check things out for free, and that is our model. So for now, we are not requiring a paid membership because of COVID, especially. We decided that the barrierless access to try to get people to utilize the tool library and think about how their consumption can really affect their pockets would help just break down that barrier. So we do require deposits on certain things, or at least rental history. If you can imagine that there's books in your library that are probably worth a lot because they can't be reprinted, or they're not, the edition isn't quite the same. So it's kind of in the same vein. I know there's usually a lot of questions around that, like how does that work? But I also wanted to touch on how we have a lot of different types of events that we were going to plan to do when COVID didn't happen. But since it did, we really adapted, and recycling events, repair events have changed face and shape. So I have behind me here, these are actually bags of clothes that we're collecting for a clothing swap we're going to have in next month. And then we're working on a styrofoam recycling event with a local business, and trying to just kind of reimagine how we can engage with the community and how they want to engage with us. I think I forgot probably a few things, but I don't know. Don, what do you think?
So it's kind of interesting to take a look at your business model. So membership is free, and then rental is free. There's no per rental charge. And so one of the things that, maybe my thinking is too old school or too retail, but how do you get the items back? I mean, what is the rental term, and how do you make sure that those rental items come back?
Yeah, so we are just entirely building and fostering community. So when someone comes to check something out, they do have to create an account and create some forms of like communication with us. So we ask for phone numbers, address, email address, and they do sign a liability waiver saying that we can charge them. We have a rather intimidating sounding charging structure where it's $1 per day if you're late. But what we really want people to do is understand that the tools that they're borrowing can be utilized by other people. And if they don't return the tools, simply they are just not allowing other people to utilize those tools. It seems very, I don't know, everybody's kind of shakes their head when they say, what? That doesn't make sense. But we really believe that people have the best intentions when borrowing tools, and haven't had very many bad experiences. There's a lot of circumstantial things that happen to people if they're robbed, or if there's, they feel guilty about breaking something. But most of all, it's just fostering that communication and making sure that people understand what the investment is that the community is making in these things. So whether it's not them paying directly, it is being funded. We do grant applications and ask for foundational donations from local companies. We ask people to, of course, donate. Usually I say, donate what you find the value in these things. A lot of people have the perspective of, well, aren't the Home Depots and Lowe's, wouldn't they be mad that you exist? And the bottom line is no, they're not going anywhere. There's not any real competition there. What I approach this as is, if someone borrows that tile saw that we have that's worth a few $100s, $300 or something, instead of taking that $300 and buying a new tile saw, then they can buy maybe the specialized blades to efficiently do their job, and maybe buy a better quality tile or grout or sealer or whatever the project really entails, so that they can have a more permanent, more durable solution. So
I know I'm probably the model Home Depot customer. I did a tile backsplash in my kitchen, so I bought a tile saw. I used it for that one day, and now it's sitting in my garage, and I really don't have another need for it anytime soon. So
Don's going to open a tool library in his garage. He
I
just
probably
doesn't know it yet.
So so give us a sense. You've got a beautiful facility there, really a very unique design with these shipping containers. How much do you think it costs to kind of bootstrap this from the beginning to the point where you could open your doors back in June?
I mean, again, hindsight is 2020. All of the markets are very unique. We joke and say this is $100,000 building, but the reality of it is the containers were donated, the decking was donated, a lot of labor was donated, and then the rates that we were given for things like the roof that we needed to have contractors really build and the welding that needed to be done by certified people. Overall, probably close to about $10,000 to $15,000. There were other things like the footings for the building that cost, $8,000, and the permits that cost a couple other $1,000. But I think it's just really unique to this situation. So I know we were talking about how to duplicate these things, but the duplication really is so unique to each region. I can't imagine, the housing market is crazy in King County, so the levels of rent are usually pretty high. So we're fortunate that we have a great relationship and have been able to do reasonable amounts. I know the next thing you're probably going to ask is insurance.
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, as a cost and certainly as an ongoing cost, because then you also have utilities, you have some, I guess, costs related to maintaining the facility, as well as any staffing costs that you might have.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? Staffing helps with all those other parts. And then staffing can be a factor in how many circuits you blow. So we, have made sure that we always had a good amount of insurance, which can cost. What I've found for tool libraries, it's slightly higher because we have this building. So we pay about $1,000 a month or $1,000 a year for our liability insurance. And then
is that included in like your building insurance, your property insurance? So if you
that's
had
totally
a fire
inclusive.
or something like that.
Yeah, so that is included. That is our organization's insurance, and so we have the Masons, who are the property owners, as additional insured with our policy. So there's partnerships. I forgot to even say this, but the partnerships have been the most important part here of all of our successes, because without their guidance and suggestions and things like that, we wouldn't have been able to do it.
Partnerships are the nonprofits and government agencies that are helping to support you?
Yeah, so in the private agencies, I mean, the Masons are a 501c4, I believe. So their mission was to serve some of the community, to serve the community, period. And I know other tool libraries have been founded in church basements and homeowners associations. So those guiding symbiotic relationships have been kind of the catalysts to move things along, because if you're starting out a tool library, you cannot just jump in and get your 501c3. I guess you could, but that might be putting the horse before the cart, because you'll start having to pay licensing and taxes before you have kind of a good business model. So getting like fiscal sponsorships have been really successful for other tool libraries. We started out being fiscally sponsored by a Seattle-based nonprofit, the TILP Alliance, and we eventually filed for our own 501c3 status and got free guidance through pro bono lawyers to do that as well. So, there's a lot of resources out there that want to facilitate nonprofits and nonprofits' existence, successes, and so on. Somebody just commented, better to start out under an umbrella than to try to go out on your own. And I think it just depends too on the region. So if you're in an extremely rural region where no nonprofits have a presence and you want to do something like this, it might be a better thing to partner with a church or something like that. But it's so unique. But
so in addition to these partnerships, I guess you have a lot of people behind you, volunteers and others working to keep the facility running. How many volunteers do you have?
I can't remember what we said that we in the last 3 months. I know we said we've trained at least 22 volunteers, and the core group of volunteers is actually my board of directors, which is kind of unusual for a board of directors. We say that they're a working board. When I was on the board, I was the working board. We didn't have an employee. We were just trying to get things moving. So they clock a lot of hours doing behind the scenes grant management, grant applications and website, design, newsletters. But then we reach out to other volunteers for fixing items, for sorting items. We've worked with the job training program. So we have what I call the mandatory volunteers coming to us that have, maybe some kind of mandated volunteership, and they get that exposure of something they hadn't really considered before. So it creates there's a lot of turnover. What ideally a tool library would have those core group of volunteers doing every function, but we're a woman-run, woman-led organization, woman-founded organization, and tools were never like our strong suit, which seems strange. I know my way around things, but really fostering that idea of empowerment to create access so people could kind of just start to begin to think what they're capable of. So that's actually, we say we have kind of 3 principles, and that's sharing, training, and empowerment. So we share tools and information, offering training and education, and then empower people to be the change they want to see in the world.
So it's a Saturday morning, and I think you open your doors at the top of the hour. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Just a few minutes from now. So
Yeah.
give us an idea. What is it going to look like as the morning winds into the afternoon? Will you do you have a lot of reservations today? Are there going to be a lot of people on site?
That is a great question. I actually, I have at least 2 people here already that have come in since I started talking to you. We'll probably get anywhere from, it's one of the first really pretty days up here in the Pacific Northwest. So that has it can either be really good and people are out in their yards, or people are going to finally, go to the mountains or go to the ocean or wherever they're going. So we can have anywhere from about 10 to about 20 people on a Saturday coming to do checkout. And we're still promoting the idea of the drive-through model. So My Turn has this lovely reservation system. And I'm really surprised that my phone hasn't started ringing off the hook, because usually I get about a dozen phone calls ahead of time too, just to make sure that we're open. To parallel our checkout, we're also doing these like distributions, because again, partnerships in our way of pivoting, a kind of like robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of thing. We are distributing things for the classes that we've hosted. So right now we have some cilantro, radish, carrot, and lettuce seeds, and planters and potting soil with burlap sacks.
So you've really taken kind of a broad view of what a tool library means, because it includes not just your classic garage tools, but kitchen utensils, and looking at things like food insecurity and trying to address a variety of different issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in COVID, a lot of people even, were receiving the food boxes that were distributed by churches and other institutions. And when you think about it, unfortunately, people that are receiving aid have a lot less choice in what they're receiving. So you could get 15 pounds of apples in one day, and nobody in your house eats apples, or your kids only eat applesauce. So getting the things like the vacuum sealers and the dehydrators just creates this level of removing, maybe you can vacuum seal some apple slices or something like that after you dehydrate them. They have one young lady that has 50 pounds of onions, and she borrowed both of the dehydrators because they're going to make onion powder, and just try to minimize the waste. And I think that is our biggest goal, is trying to reduce waste. Actually, we were acknowledged this year. Well, we'll be on Earth Day, they're going to give us the award, but by King County for leaders in waste reduction. And I was just kind of blown away by that, mostly because we were only open like the past 10 months, but also that is the same county that houses Seattle. And that is just so unbelievable to me. I actually was kind of like, well, that's disappointing that there's not more efforts in waste reduction. So, really having those conversations is important to me, because people begin to question how they consume, what they're spending their money on, how that impacts so many different things. So
So some of the one local tool library here in North Carolina, I think has fairly limited hours. Can you talk about like how do you what's your kind of schedule for the week?
Yeah, so we do checkouts are 11 to 1 on Saturdays and Mondays, and then on Wednesdays from 4 to 6. And we people are like, well, you're only open 6 hours a week. That's not a lot of work for you to do, but there's a lot of work up to that point. So a lot of it's coordination. A lot of it is, testing tools, making sure everything is ready for somebody to check it out. The other thing that I didn't mention with inventory is, we have there's a lot of consumable parts when you check these tools out. So we don't guarantee any blades or bits or the sanding paper and things like that, but we've had a lot of those donated. So usually if someone comes in, say to borrow a tile saw, and they're maybe working with porcelain or glass, depending on what that is, they might have to go buy a blade. And that's just another reason that those tool stores are not going to go out of business anytime soon. So
What do you think is the biggest barrier to being open more hours?
The biggest thing is I'm only one person. Volunteers, volunteering game has just changed, especially since COVID. A lot of our volunteers were retirees. Again, like I said, folks in transition, moving, and then they hold a lot of, as you guys know, with the repair economy, they hold a lot of this generational knowledge, and that is not something that you can easily duplicate. You can't just pick up anybody off the road. So there's people that volunteer that have no experience with tools that we can set them to doing things. We do have a demonstration rain garden, and they can read the sizes between all of the wrenches to separate them. But to sharpen a chainsaw blade, that's probably, or chain, that's not something that any one person can do. So you really have that, anyone that might be deliberating starting a tool library, trying to get this group of volunteers that has a diverse knowledge, or like me, is just really willing to learn, because there's a huge segment of people that are just willing to learn and have to, again, bootstrap their way into doing that. We watched that happen over the past several years with people that don't know how to cook or where things come from, right? So it's no different, but their willingness to do it, and kids are one way to do that. That's why I love the tool library model so much, because there's just so many applications for it. And I don't want to ramble too much, but I can't see you if you're giving me the sign.
So I just want to give our audience a chance to throw out some questions. I know that I've tried to loop in comments from the chat, but if anybody would like to actually just raise their hand and join in the conversation, we can do that as well. So go ahead and either raise your hand or type in a question in the chat. And let's see, do we have anything? I don't see anything yet. Let's see, just checking. And so you did some additional events that provided you some community engagement. I know you mentioned to me previously a paper shredding event and some other kinds of events. Can you tell us, like, what are those things that you're doing that it's helping reduce landfill waste, and how are you supporting solid waste management in King County?
Yeah, so I'm actually on a zero waste task force for King County, trying to yell into the void of politics about how to reduce waste. But also clothing swap. We had about 1,500 pounds of clothes that went back out into the community. We did one in November. 1,500 went to Boys and Girls Club for Thread Cycle and for resale. And then we have been doing like electronics recycling events, shredding events, we do battery recycling. We have lithium battery recycling. Oh, why can't I think of any more? We're going to be doing tires, pallets.
Are you doing any kind of training workshops where folks are learning new skills?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's actually part of my repair idea, how to pivot these things for COVID times. Again, our phases are a little different here, maybe than a lot other places in the world, in the country, but we are in phase 3 technically right now. So we're still kind of focusing on those online resources. So we're going to do some more topical repair events where people can actually look and talk to professionals in the industries. So large items like washers and dryers and
these would be online events, or are these in person?
Yeah,
online
these
events.
are going to be online. We are also trying to do a mentorship program where we have people that are in repair, our fixers, since we're not doing the big fix-it repair events, are volunteering with us to repair tools. And so we'll have people partner with them to come in and work on tools and learn about those too.
So we have some questions about the tool rental process and how that's managed. Sometimes tools break, and what do you do when a tool comes back broken?
We parts it out, you see if we can fix it, see if we can, we had a cultivator, we only have one cultivator now, and that came back. Gentleman was funny, the cotter pin came out on one of the blades. He said, I think that's why it won't start. And I said, that's not why it won't start. So we went in and dove in. I had one of my fixers came and helped, and it ended up being, it was shorted. So he had washed it, and then there was water inside, and we got it restarted. So we'll do our best to fix it, but we do have to recycle things. And that is one of the things, again, I'm screaming into the void with the county to say, okay, someone throws a drill into the recycling bin. That's got electronics, metal, plastic. How could they possibly think or know that that's going to just go into the landfill? And what could you do about that? So really trying to have these institutions rethink how they're managing the waste stream, because they're having issues, right, with this contamination process, with wish cycling and things. So having resources like us where people can say, well, I have this broken thing, and instead of us telling them, okay, well, you have to throw it in the garbage, there's actually places you can take it. So we have a partnership with another company called Uptech, and they do a lot of reclamation of electronics. So they'll go into that drill and take out the engine or whatever usable parts. So
and how many tools can a person rent, or I'd rather borrow, at one time?
So we kind of have it structured that depending on their membership level, because we do ask for a donation membership. If they're going with the free model, we limit it to 5, which we've had the conversation around, well, if that's 5 air compressors, that's, maybe every air compressor we have, which is not really the case. Usually I'm talking through a project with someone. So, hey, I'm going to do my, I don't want to keep using tile, but I'm going to do the trim in my bathroom. So I need a compound miter saw, and I need this and that, and then I can suggest maybe, well, how about using an air compressor with a nail gun instead of an electric thread, so we try to limit the amount and value to about 5 tools, or whatever project kind of scope they're working within.
So I see Zach has raised his hand. So Zach, we're going to promote you to a panelist, and you can ask Amanda your questions. And Zach, I think you're coming in from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, if I recall correctly. And here you are.
Hello. So I wanted to ask, forgive the background noise. I'm actively at work, so if you hear other voices, that's why. I work for Habitat for Humanity's Restore in Harrisburg, and we're always looking for ways to improve our ability to serve the community. So tool libraries really excite me as an idea. My question, oh goodness, what was it? So
It,
how do you afford staffing? Like, and how many members are actively employed versus how many are volunteers?
right, that's a good question. So I'm the only paid staff member. I'm technically part-time. And we go for grants. We go for grant funding that's available. Currently, we're funded by Department of Ecology for Washington State. We're going for a federal EPA grant. Yes, technically part-time. I consider the other time that I spend volunteering, because I was volunteering 20 or more hours a month when I was on the board. So this is a labor of love for sure. And while we were, we want people to feel valued and value their time, there's just a need for volunteers that is undue. It's undeniable. So we have a fleet of volunteers that manage, like I said, the things behind the scenes with admin. And then it just has kind of been, since we're so young, it's hard to pinpoint like what the ideal number would be. And I really think it kind of depends on the situation. There are two libraries that are entirely volunteer run. So I have always thought that maybe my job was, not going to be here forever. It was not it would be something that I would just kind of become a volunteer again and get another full-time job. But our goals as the South King Tool Library are becoming even bigger, where we're trying to maybe become a fiscal sponsor of other tool libraries, or try to create, a business model that is sustainable. That's where other tool libraries, again, they charge membership fees, and it's a required membership fee. So $50 a year would get you access to A to Z tools, and you're creating that access for other people as well. And everyone's kind of mutually invested in it. The commune model really exemplified. But sorry, that was a really long answer to your question. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Follow-up question. Are any of your tools locked behind technical training courses? Like, I can't use this tool until I take a training video or talk to a librarian to make sure that I fully understand how this tool is used.
So we kind of do a bit of, so no, and I'll tell you why. Because anyone could walk into Home Depot and walk out with anything. Home Depot is not going to tell them that you can't operate this chainsaw without taking this training. Usually chainsaws is where this arises, because there's a lot of trees in the Pacific Northwest. And what ends up happening is that we have conversations with people about what they're utilizing the tool for. And it kind of de-escalates what they think they need it for. So if you're asking for a chainsaw to cut your a bush, maybe consider, a hedge trimmer or even a sawzall to get those woodier parts. But when you speak to people, when I speak to people about like how they're going to utilize the tool, we want to make sure they're getting the right tool for the right project. It's, a circular saw and other things. So, there's a lot of possibilities. It's just a matter of what are you, you can't stop people from making the decisions that they want to make. Yes, there would be all these writings and lovely notebooks and things that you would get from the packaging at Home Depot. And we try to ask people, make sure you know what you're doing, but we can't verify that they would do that. So we have a more altruistic investment than Home Depot and Lowe's, right? Where we want our community members to not lose fingers and toes and, things like that. But we want them to feel empowered to be able to do things. And we know that there's just an inherent liability that sounds really awful, because we don't want people to hurt themselves, but people are generally fairly cautious. I have watched people just walk away from, no, maybe not a chainsaw at all. I'll let me see if I can just move, there's a lot of possibilities.
So we have a couple other questions that have come in through the
Yeah.
chat. And so Don Schreiner asks, just to confirm that there are no charges applied to a broken tool. You're not expecting the borrower to compensate you for the loss of the tool.
We're not expecting it. We ask, the very first checkout we had was a brand new pressure washer, and the couple came back and they had accidentally broken the a nozzle attachment part, and they called and they said, do you want us to bring it back? And I said, well, yeah, you can bring it back and get a different one. And they said, well, what if we just ordered the part and fixed it? I said, yeah, you could do that too. So again, building the sense of community, it helps people feel more accountable and invested in what they're doing. So I feel like it's less likely that they're going to misuse a tool because they know that this is actually someone else's tool. It's like if you borrowed your neighbor's saw, you'd be way less likely to go, wild and try to cut bricks or something, than you would. Maybe, I don't really know, but ideally, you're thinking about the other person.
And another question that came in from the chat is there one or two tools in particular that you are perhaps your favorite or really kind of stand out in your collection?
I mean, we have high demand tools like the pressure washers. I wish we had more pressure washers. My favorite tool is the reciprocating saw because I feel like it makes you feel really strong and like zombie apocalypse thing. We have some, we just got this really neat thing, and they called to say they wanted to donate it. And I was like, explain to me what this does, but it's an electric ladder. And I said, so it's an escalator, but it's a lift for shingles and roofing supplies. If you're working on your roof or on your gutters, you attach your items to it and it brings it up to you at that level. So you don't have the, if you can't build scaffolding or whatever the case is, like getting it up to the roof isn't as troublesome.
Yeah, that is a tool that folks wouldn't think of and then probably not need after their project is done.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So unless there are any other questions, I think we can wrap this up. And Amanda, if you have any other closing comments you'd like to share with us?
I just wanted to say too that there's so many possibilities for tool libraries. I see there's a question, and I think I've seen this a couple of times, but it is not limited to residents of our city. So we are not an institution by our city, our county, or associated with the libraries. We are our own organization, 501c3. Our service population is something like 200,000 people in the region. So people from all over the area. But if you're considering making a tool library in your region, plugging into those intimidating factors like legislators or city officials and people in these what might be high up positions really do see the value in it too, or at least it seemed to be in this region. And I hope that across the nation, it's something that we start to have a conversation of, because it's not just a hippie Pacific Northwest kind of idea, but it is something that I think can really serve the whole world. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for your patience and time. And hopefully if you have any questions, I'll be sure to pass out my information too.
Yeah, thank you very much for presenting today and giving us all an insider's view of Tool Library. Thank you. Yeah. So we're going to transition now to the next section of our discussion today. And Zach, we're leaving you on as a panelist, if that's cool with you. I see you muted yourself there.
I'll do my best.
What's that? I'm sorry?
I'll do my best.
Okay, yeah, just hang in there. If you'd like to jump in on the conversation, you're welcome to. So, and likewise, as we go along, if you raise your hand, we'll bring you in as a panelist. I'm going to share my screen here and let's see. Go on to talk a little bit about online resources. Now, a lot of these things are new since our last call 2 months ago, and I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of them and give you some opportunity to get involved with them. If you haven't seen it before, back in the fall of 2020, John Wackman and some other volunteers in the New York Hudson Valley area launched repaircafeusa.org. And it's a website really designed to try to present a public face of Repair Cafe on the web for US audience. So this would be folks who are interested in attending as a guest to a Repair Cafe, or maybe trying to organize one themselves. Oftentimes, I think we look at the Repair Cafe International website coming out of Amsterdam, and we see that it's really very much targeted to a European audience, not localized much at all. There is English language content, but Americans can be quickly put off by euros and pounds and kilos. So the Repair Cafe USA site is a kind of very nice, visually attractive, informative website, and I encourage you all to check it out. We also have, and then folks who are here from the tool library audience, you guys are certainly welcome to stay. There's, this is all open access information about Repair Cafe, so please stick around. We've got repaircafe.us is a site that's just launched in March. It's very bare bones. It's kind of a placeholder for collecting together a bunch of different resources, primarily for organizers. So I'm the guy behind this one, and my thought is, begin collecting tools, information, ideas that can help organizers run more effective programs or start new programs in their area. That's very much what this call is about, and trying to just kind of get the word out. When we take a look at the US as a whole and the number of active repair cafes, there's clearly a lot of opportunity for growth. And so we want to try to foster that with information that's localized for use in the US as opposed to coming from Europe. From here, you can find links to a variety of different things, including a newly launched forum. So we started this in March. This is a forum for organizers. Currently, we have about 50 members. It's open access in that you don't need a membership to be able to read the content on the forum. But if you'd like to post or interact with folks on the forum, you do need to have a membership. There is a link at the top of the forum where you can apply for membership, and then I just send you an invite. So if that's something of interest to you, by all means, check it out at forum.repaircafe.us. And all these slides will be made available after the call, so you can get the URLs from there. Let's see, just bear with me for a second because I've lost the chat window. Okay, and whoops, go back. Probably the thing that we've put the greatest amount of work in, a group of us have gotten together to create a directory. We've had a number of conversations kind of offline, wondering, well, how big is the Repair Cafe movement in the US? Who is actively organizing? And even though we have had a year's worth of pandemic that has kind of put a lot of people into a hibernation, how big is this movement? How big might it be, as we emerge from the pandemic? And so myself, along with Melissa Everett, Ray Fow, and Elizabeth Knight, have pooled together various lists that we've had. And then Fiona Bruckman is an intern working with Sustainable Hudson Valley. She has compiled all this data, kind of organized it, filtered it, and tried to bring it up to date. And then we've put it online. We did a mailing to about 200 different Repair Cafe organizers. We've tried to update the information as much as possible, and it's available now for you to take a look at. You can sort by state, you can do searches on it, and try to find a Repair Cafe near you. This is a much more comprehensive list than you might find on Repair Cafe International, where their list is limited to what you might think of as officially recognized repair cafes. But we recognize that there are, here in the US, we know a lot of organizations that are doing Repair Cafe as a secondary program within their main mission. So they may not be using the Repair Cafe name, but nevertheless following the principles of Repair Cafe. And that's who we're trying to identify with this. That's who's invited to these calls. So it's a larger list than you'd find anywhere else. And not every cafe on this list is active, but these are cafes that we know have operated at one time. Most of them are active, and we hope to continue to improve and refine the list over time. So if you are operating a Repair Cafe and you're not on the list, there is, I guess not obviously a link, but you can send me an email and we can get you listed. And then, over time, we hope to be able to enhance this, provide more features, but you can find websites, Facebook links. If you click on a listing, you can get, I believe we've got Instagram links and others. So there's a lot of information in there, as well as email addresses to be able to contact the organizers. Any questions about these online resources? Let's see. I see Ray has raised his hand. Let me loop you in here, Ray. Okay, Ray Pfau is one of the organizers in Massachusetts, and Ray has contributed a lot of useful information for this directory. And Ray, you're with us if you'd like to unmute and even turn on your video.
Whoops, video, wait a minute.
Here you are. We can hear you.
Trying to get my video started now. There we go. Okay, so I just was curious if somebody is just getting started, when should they add their name to the directory? Can they do it right away, or should they wait till they get to a certain point?
You know, that's a great question. I think I've been leaning more toward being more permissive and more open to getting folks on this listing. I think the idea is that you've got to have a pretty strong intent, I think, to launch a repair cafe. To make this directory effective, we want it to be, representing real repair cafe initiatives. But I recognize that, there's a sort of a pre-launch phase where somebody may be wanting to drive some visibility and awareness of their program. And so if that's your case, then I would say probably let us know, and we can build in a feature in the directory to maybe kind of flag cafes as being pre-launch, so they can begin getting visibility, begin attracting other volunteers who are interested in helping to organize.
Okay, a related question would be, somebody puts their name in and then they decide, they're not going to do it anymore. How do you remove your name?
Yeah, I guess we really haven't sorted out all the policies. I think that there is, definitely probably 50 out of the 200 repair cafes we have listed have not had activity in the past 3 to 4 years. If after our research and our email correspondence, we get no feedback from those folks, they don't open our emails, they don't click through and update their details, then I think we will probably drop them. We just haven't made the cut yet.
Okay. Or somebody, as I was thinking, they think they're going to do it, but they decide not to, then they could let us know and get removed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you have information that a particular cafe we have listed here is no longer active, then definitely let us know. I've also joined Melissa Everett as one of our panelists. Melissa, you're here?
Yes, I am. I was actually repairing.
Good thing to be doing today, right?
Scrambling to have my house not be a chaos when my sister shows up. But yeah, this is wonderful. And I would echo the call that you made about just welcoming people in a formative phase, encouraging them, maybe even in the welcoming message saying, please keep this current. And, we might even include a field that is like, formative, active, resting, hibernating. But anyway, I think what's important is that everybody communicate. The three of us have been doing our darndest to just, and Elizabeth Knight as well, just, to be a hub in an unpretentious way. So keeping communication about how it's all working.
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of knowledge that each one of us has about operating in our own local communities, things that we've learned that we can share with others. So it's a great opportunity. Yeah. Okay. I see Elizabeth is here. I'm going to bring in Elizabeth. And so, Elizabeth, you're on. You can unmute and share your video if you wish.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to say how much I appreciate, Don, your pulling all of this together. This is extraordinarily helpful. And Melissa and Ray, this was a big effort. We had started over a year ago when John and I were working on the Repair Revolution book to reach out to every repair cafe that we knew of. But now with all of us pulling together, there are so many more, and it's such a helpful resource. So I just want to say a lot of people put a lot of effort into this, and I'm really pleased that it makes it so much easier, as you said, for somebody who wants to start one. Now there are resources in the US, which is a different perspective than we have in Amsterdam. That's a great place to start with the world map, but then you're perhaps looking for something a little more local, solving the kinds of problems that are unique to your area. So I think this is a tremendous asset. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. And it was really your work was the nucleus of this. So thanks for all the legwork you did over the couple years of research for your book.
Well, you're welcome. But as Fix It Bob always says at our Repair Cafe, there's no I in team.
That's right.
Thanks.
So
Hey, before we end the Love Fest, can I just say 2 words? Fiona Bruckman, Vassar College intern. And I don't know if she's on this, but great work to all.
Yes.
yeah, Fiona did do a tremendous job, and she continues to work on this. I think if we have edits and things coming through,
Yep,
she's
yep,
reviewing them.
Yep.
Okay.
And we're looking forward to the next step would be to have our own map as well.
Yes, so that'll be the next Gee Whiz feature. I think we'll get that that map up there and share that on the next call we do in 2 months from now.
Okay, super.
So unless we have any questions or additional contributions about these online resources, we'll talk a little bit about insurance, and I hope it won't be a boring and dry subject. So we're going to go ahead and I'll share my screen for the next slide. And now I'll tell you up front, I have no professional qualifications. I am not an insurance agent. I'm not a lawyer. Nothing I say should be considered professional advice. That's my disclaimer. And as we take a look at liability insurance, this came up in our call 2 months ago. There is, a variety of approaches that different cafes are using to try to limit their liability, limit their exposure. The most basic tool is a waiver. Some document up front to make sure that guests understand that we are not professionals. We make no guarantees. We may not even have any experience in the particular item that they brought in today. Then the next step is hoping that our hosts have insurance. So a lot of repair cafes are held in churches or community buildings or other hosting organizations. If they have insurance that covers the activities going on in their facility, we hope to be covered by them, but that's not true in every case. And as repair cafe organizers, we have a responsibility to ourselves, to our volunteers, and to our guests to make sure that we've given some consideration to the different risks that are involved. And so I'll admit, after operating for now 4 years, I have yet to buy an insurance policy. We did establish our local repair cafe as a nonprofit early in 2020. That's probably an important first step to being able to buy insurance. And then we took a look at what were the insurance needs that we had. And so we wanted to protect our volunteers, our guests, and our organizers foremost. And an important feature of a liability policy, from what I've learned, is we want to have completed operations coverage. So that is going to be where we want to have coverage in the event that somebody takes the item home, uses it, and experiences a problem where perhaps they get an electric shock from a lamp, or in some way they get injured from the item that they use. If they were to come back to us and try to put in a claim, even though they've signed the waiver, they can still make a claim. We want to be sure we have coverage in that case. And so that's completed operations coverage. And that's not a feature of every liability policy. And so it's something to look for. In our case, we have a fairly small budget. There's not a lot of money in the bank. So we want to find a policy that fits our budget. And also, we're not really worried about protecting revenue. Some small business policies you'll see will include coverages for lost revenue. That's not really a concern here. We don't have significant business property. All of our guests, all of our coaches are bringing in their own tools. We don't have a building. We don't have a large capital investment. So we're not concerned about protecting business property. We've got, let's see, one of the things that I concluded in the research is that if you are going into people's homes, you're opening up a whole different set of liability. So we're not doing that. That protects us. It's important to kind of make that clear up front. If any of your coaches connect with guests and operate outside the scope of a repair cafe, it should be clear that that's not a sanctioned activity. It's not covered by the policy. Volunteers have no professional training. I don't presume that we're going. We can't say to the insurance company that we've got training or that we have credentials. In my program here, we don't do any background checks. I don't vet our volunteers in any way. And we're not looking for errors and omissions coverage. So this is a feature you would find in more professional liability policies, where you go to someone like a doctor, a lawyer, or engineer, and you expect them to have a professional expertise. And then if you were buying an insurance policy to cover professional consulting, you would need errors and omissions. We don't have that as a requirement for Repair Cafe, so that's a cost savings. You don't want errors and omissions. So I've made phone calls. I've reached out to a number of different insurance agencies, as well as direct insurance companies. And the one proposal I got came from, let's see, click on the right window here. Here we go. I called Progressive, Flow, and I got in touch with their business insurance unit. And they were able to present a proposal from Hiscox Insurance. So in this case, Progressive is just the salesperson. Hiscox is the company underwriting the policy and servicing it. Hiscox is over 100 years old, $4 billion a year in revenue, based in London and Bermuda. They are a well-established company, so it's a good, reputable policy. And the kind of coverage that we're getting here is $1 million per event, $2 million in aggregate. So you're going to see that pretty commonly in insurance policies for liability. That's basically, in one specific injury, the maximum coverage would be $1 million. And in the term of the policy, the maximum total coverage would be $2 million. So you could have any variety of events as long as the injuries don't exceed a total of $2 million. And this policy includes $2 million of completed operations coverage. So, it's providing us that assurance that somebody takes something home and is later injured, and they believe it's the result of the repair work that we did, then that would be covered. And of course, you've all jumped to the punchline, $500 a year. Now, I don't know how that strikes folks. I'd be interested to see in the chat, or if you want to join in the conversation. Is that a lot? I tend to think that $500 is possibly feasible. Depending on how you want to budget for it, it can be paid monthly. I think it works out to be about $37 a month. A lot of active repair cafes are generating at least that much in donations. You may have a partner organization, as Amanda was describing earlier for the tool libraries. You may be sponsored by a parent organization who could contribute some portion of that $500. Given the peace of mind, I think for an active repair cafe, it may be worthwhile. And it's just one proposal, and I'll share the PDF of the quote after the call, but I'm totally willing to share kind of the details I have, as well as the contact information for Progressive if you wanted to get a proposal for you. I think they said that this same policy would basically be the same in 49 out of 50 states, and I don't remember the one state that was excluded. So, so it's probably covering your state. We had some questions coming in here. How many repair events do you have per year? Okay, Courtney says that they have 2 per year. In 2020, I had scheduled 12 once a month. And in those events, we typically get about, 12 coaches, maybe 40 to 50 guests at the most. That's kind of the size of the program we're doing here in the Triangle region of North Carolina. Let's see. And Linda, I guess you had a similar question. So, so this is just kind of a little bit of a food for thought. I know in particular, is Don still with us? I know that Pico had some questions last time about insurance. I know it's been a concern there. So, I wanted to kind of get this out and just as information so folks can think about it.
Can I ask a couple of quick questions?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Ray.
So one is, when I read through, because you had sent me a copy of the policy, it says third party as far as the coverage. Does that mean volunteers are or are not included? Is it only guests or is it volunteers too?
In my conversations with them, it was meant to cover volunteers.
Okay, you might want to check on the language and make sure that's the case. Then the other question, does the premium vary depending on how often you have these? Like, I mean, if somebody only did 2 versus 12, is it still going to be the same price, or we don't know that really?
From what I understood, it is because rather than being kind of event-based insurance, this policy is meant to provide continuous coverage throughout the policy term. And that's important for the completed works, the completed operations coverage, because if somebody is, using the lamp a month later and gets shocked, you want to make sure that that policy is still enforced. So it's not just injuries that occur at the time of the event, but it's also afterwards. It was also kind of a point that the agent made to me that, that the coverage for completed operations is only during the term of the policy. So this would be a policy that you would want to keep in force over years to reduce the possibility that somebody may file a claim on you after the term of the policy has expired.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm. Let's see, anybody else want to jump in on this? Okay, I know insurance, I'm surprised that we still have 22 of you in the audience because it could have been a snoozer. So we'll move on and just kind of blow up our call to just open discussion. So because this is an open call, everybody and anybody can contribute, ask questions, throw out ideas, make suggestions. If you're not already in as a panelist, raise your hand, we'll bring you in. Everybody can talk. Anybody? No? Okay, now we've got some hands coming up. Okay. So we've got Claire and Rachel joining us. Let's see, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We're going to change up our view here. Okay. And so Claire, you can unmute, and Rachel, you're on. What would you like to share with us?
Hi.
Well, Claire, you can go first. It's fine.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to say hello and show my face and let you guys know I just recently relocated back to the Los Angeles area, and I'm trying to get connected with people here. I've looked into the Pasadena Repair Café as well as Santa Monica, but from what I can tell, it doesn't seem like there's anything happening in East Los Angeles. So I just wanted to put the word out there that I would like to get connected. I was willing to start my own repair cafe and start to like tread into those waters. I used to volunteer with the Portland Repair Cafe, but so just putting the word out there. If anybody knows anything or wants to send anyone my way or connect me with anyone, that would be super helpful.
Thank you, Claire, and welcome. I'm glad you joined. And Rachel?
I was just going to say hi as well, and I'm probably one of those people that is included on the list of repair cafes, but I actually haven't operated a repair cafe yet. It was kind of a pre-COVID venture. We were going to start ours in April of 2020 and just had to shut down. I work at a public library as the tool librarian, so that first part of the call was really more my game. But for the repair cafe, I was just wondering if I'm kind of reaching out to other community partners since I work for the public library here in Arkansas. Like I was just wondering if anybody else, instead of just operating the repair cafe more as a group of volunteers or community, does anybody operate it more in partnership with either their city government? And I know some people have said they've gotten funded through their city government or with other nonprofits like Habitat for Humanity or Goodwill in your area, or if there's another 501c that helps you.
and how many community partners are too many? Like, are there too many people at the table, and it kind of pushes the goal of repair cafes out of the way? I just want to know if anybody's had that experience, or whether I should try to run it through the public library.
So I know that there are a number of guests, I mean, a number of folks on the call today who do have experience working through public libraries. Do any of them want to jump in and give Rachel some ideas or feedback? No, I can definitely look at the list, Rachel, and maybe try to put you in touch with some that I know that are operating out of libraries. Anybody else working with community partners that that can give some suggestions? And Steve, we're adding you as a panelist. There's usually a little bit of a hiccup as people come on board. Okay, Steve, you can share your microphone and video if you'd like. There you go, Steve.
Yeah, hey, just a bit slow. Rachel, so I'm at Toolbox Project in Eugene, Oregon, and we started out as a tool lending library, tiny nonprofit, fiscal sponsorship, all that kind of stuff. What I wanted to respond to is the city of Eugene was trying to run what we call fix-it fairs. They were aiming for 2 or 3 or 5 a year, and at a certain point asked us to take over the contract. So between the city's desire and Lane County Waste Management and the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, the DEQ, we've gotten a lot of support and requests. Actually, Lane County itself is considering asking us to do county-wide fix-it fairs. I personally am not focused on the fix-it fair aspect of what we do, more on the tool lending library. So that might be all I can offer. We could send mail or something. We can figure out how we can do that, or Dawn can set us up or something. Toolbox Project, EugeneToolboxProject.org. And I'm going to mute.
Okay, so if I can speak up, there are some places where departments of public works or other, city or town related agencies are involved with this. But another thing that's good is to reach out to local, other service organizations like Rotary, Lions, et cetera. And we, our Repair Cafe, we're in Bolton, Massachusetts, is actually sponsored and officially a Rotary event. And because of that, we get the liability insurance, because if an event is a Rotary event, they have that insurance. So this is something too, when you do partner with other groups, that you can ask whether they have, insurance that might help cover the Repair Cafe.
And Elizabeth, you had your hand up. Did you have something to contribute?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
In addition, there are repair cafes across the country that work with village and town government, including local recreation and parks departments, often sponsors or will provide a place for you to work. Libraries, Ray was telling you about civic and social clubs. In addition to Rotary, there's Oddfellows, Elks, Lions, Kiwanis, schools, colleges, and retiree and senior associations. Warwick in New York, because I was a member of Sustainable Warwick, a community organization, not a 501c3, but it was under the umbrella of a larger a larger community organization called Warwick Together, and they helped provide our insurance. You want to look for even historical societies. There are historic homes that sponsor repair cafes, which are held on site. It doesn't need to be a government organization. It needs to be a place that's willing to understand what it is you're trying to do for the community and be willing to lend support. And support doesn't always have to be money. Support means their mailing list, their members for volunteers as well. So cast a really wide net beyond what might seem obvious. Time banks are another great place to look for a partner because people are already in the mindset of exchanging information and skills. Fab labs, hacker spaces, maker spaces, green clubs and businesses. There's a whole chapter in Repair Revolution about, how do you get one of these in my town, with a lot more detail about that than I can give right now. But cast a big net. Who cares about keeping stuff out of the landfill, and start going to their meetings to present your idea. And once you say to somebody, how many people care about making something, keeping useful goods useful and out of the landfill? Second question, how many people have a skill to offer, and who do you know?
So Elizabeth, if you want to take an Amtrak ride down to Harrisburg sometime, you let me know, okay? We're right on the route between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. You just stop on by and I'll show you
I
the
may
town
take you up
and
on
take
that.
your-
My stepdaughter lives in Philly, and that's
Yeah,
not
there
when
you
we can.
go.
Why don't you let's stay in contact, and I'd be happy to work that out when we can do it. I'm going to have to jump off pretty shortly. Unfortunately, in terms of travel, I was involved in a car crash this week, so I need to go rest up.
Okay.
But yes.
That's why she's not showing her video. She's covered in
My
bandages
car
and
not be the
scars.
same, and unfortunately, I have a repair cafe for that. Oh, somebody else was talking about what other kinds of things could be fixed in other programs. One of our repair coaches ran his own bike shop in New York City for 39 years, and he had a weekend home near where we hold our repair cafe. And he and another volunteer partnered to do bike check-over clinics, a city check, and what to look for yourself. They did it at the library. And then we also worked with a makerspace during a community swap. It's an annual too good to toss swap. And we took the bikes that have been 30-some bikes that have been donated to be given away. And the two guys worked together to do a check over demo in the middle of the entire event. And then we had little handouts. If you'd like to volunteer for a repair cafe, here are the kind of skills we were looking for. If you'd like to participate, what kinds of things do you want to offer? Go out to public events. Earth Day is a great place to start. Look for any kind of a local Earth Day event and have a sign-up sheet for what a repair cafe is, what you're looking for.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's an important reminder that we do have Earth Day coming up next week.
Bet.
So, if you have the opportunity to capitalize on that in your local community, maybe take advantage of any promotions or information table fairs or whatever might be happening. So, all right, unless anybody else has anything to throw into our open discussion, this is a component I want to have in every one of our open calls. So, next time, definitely come with ideas or questions. I see Zach is waving his hand.
Yeah, I wanted to show you. So there's a place in Harrisburg called Recycle Bicycle, and they take apart bikes. And this is like their scrapping part. And then if I do a different picture here, hold on. Just got to change my background again here. How did I do that the first time? I'm good at Zoom in spurts, and then I forget how it works. Here we go. So this other one here is all the bikes that they take, and they've got like moving carts and things that they can use depending on what stuff they have around the place. So yeah, that's a great resource if you have a group that's already working on people. They'd be a great place to get started with workshops and things. Another fantastic would be the trades schools. Dauphin County Technical School bought an old house in Harrisburg that had been damaged by fire, and they're doing classes in the building, fixing up the building over the next 2 years, and then they'll sell the house and then use that money to buy another house and keep doing it. So the kids are learning trade skills in an actual home and improving the city's housing market at the same time. So that's a great way to just connect with existing things that are happening in your town.
Yeah, that's an excellent program. Thanks for sharing that, Zach. What I'm going to be doing, of course, we recorded this show and we'll post it on a private link on YouTube. We'll circulate that out to everybody so you can share that with friends if you'd like to promote what we're doing here. And we'll also, online, we'll post the PDF document of the proposals for insurance, and as well as the PowerPoint slide, so you can find the URLs for the different things we discussed. And then if Amanda wants to share things about tool libraries, we'll get that out to you as well. So unless we have anything else, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. It's a Saturday afternoon, and it seems to be a beautiful day here, and I know it was a beautiful day in the Pacific Northwest, so I hope it's nice where you are as well.
We got snow yesterday, so but it's
Really, you can
mostly
keep
melted.
that. Thanks very much.
But anyway, thanks so much, Don, Amanda, and everybody else for who put this together.
Yes, thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I had to get to some folks that came in, so hopefully I didn't miss any questions, but please feel free to email me info or director@softteamtools.org. I'll make sure Don has that so we can email that out too. But thank you guys.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Well, I haven't set a date for next time, but I will soon. So thanks very much. All right.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.